So my name is Leo Guardado. I'm an assistant professor in the theology department of Fordham University in New York City. I am very much a scholar practitioner or a theologian who has a foot in academia, but also a foot, I would say, in the community. What initially attracted me to my areas of research, which have to do primarily with questions of theology and migration, at the core was my wrestling with God, my trying to make sense of God and of the church from the perspective of my own migrant experience and the migration experience of my Latin American communities. As an undocumented young man in LA, I wrestled a lot with God. I was trying to make sense of why I had been displaced from my village, which, although there was a war going on, I very much enjoyed. In LA as a young man, I was trying to make sense of why would I be displaced, forcibly displaced across countries, only to be undocumented and have to live in the shadow of law enforcement, continuously afraid of getting deported. It did not make sense to me. There was a lot of frustration there that I said I, in a way, addressed to God. It's in that spiritual wrestling out of my own migrant experience that I began to find words for theology, for my own theological kind of language in relation to my experience of migration. I research or I work theologically with migration because of my migration experience. They say that, our biographies are part of what we do in life. It's certainly true for me. My experience of forced displacement is the place from which I do my theological work. I couldn't do otherwise. One of the aspects of my work has to do with the church sanctuary. So I research, I study, I think about churches that provide sanctuary or refuge for undocumented persons who are being persecuted by ICE and who are threatened with deportation. Another aspect of my work that also connects with my own experience of migration has to do with how migrant communities address the multidimensional violence that they live in. How do they find healing in their midst? Fellowship will provide me with precious time for continuing to investigate how the knowledge and the wisdom of healers who accompany migrant communities in the US can help us reimagine church or churches as sites for multidimensional healing. So I am interested in both investigating further ways that we can reimagine churches as sites of healing, especially in light of Pope Francis's ongoing call for the church to think of itself as a field hospital. He emphasizes over and over since his papacy in 2013 began, what would it look like for the church to be a field hospital? And he keeps emphasizing we need to learn how to heal, learn how to heal, learn how to heal. Well, much of the knowledge I want to say may reside within communities that the church itself marginalizes. I believe that my project is important because it places two major needs, two major categories at play, both the immigrant community in the United States and the fact that we are an immigrant church in this country. We are a church comprised of immigrants at the root, and the fact that we live in a society with deep, deep wounds, in a society profoundly marked by violence. My project has the potential real-world implications of helping us envision and transform what it means to be a church in the United States that is attuned to healing and to migrant communities. Persons who endure migration often leave contexts of war, endure a warlike journey, and survive with creative agency in the United States in the midst of the state's persecution of their life. I want to bring that creative agency of immigrant communities, that knowledge of survival that they bear, and that healing wisdom that is literally in their bodies, in their culture. I want to think with that and bring that to the church. So the real world implications of my research is about transforming the church, perhaps one small faith community at a time. But there are ways that this is already happening. And I want to highlight how that is already happening. And I want to think bigger about that. And I want to gather people at the table to discuss ways that that may be scalable beyond any given faith community. My name is Leo Guardado. I am an assistant professor at Fordham University in New York City.